That's what you said. Yeah, that's what you said. You know that I need it. Diet. Feeling like Jonah, brother turn low now. How we gon' find our way? Feeling like Moses, man, the Lord chose us. Now we gotta find our way. Feeling like David, man, I done gave him all. I gotta find my way. You never feel me. I'm still feeling like Jonah, brother turn low now. How we gon' find our way? Feeling like Moses, man, the Lord chose us. Now we gotta find our way. Feeling like David, man, I done gave him all. I gotta find my way. You never feel me. That's what you said. That's what he said. Been through the fire, never burned, but instead love you forever, even more to the end. Cause all that I needed, thy hands have provided. Yeah. All of them ups and downs.
It's the shuttle tour about the only successful government overthrow to ever be carried out on United States soil successfully and documented, which happened here in Wilmington in 1898. Now, however, this tour is not exclusive to just this sad story. Today, y'all gonna hear about 200 plus years of rich African-American heritage from Wilmington natives, whose accomplishments was not just huge to the city, but was huge to the state, huge to the nation, and some of them even huge to the globe. Now, I won't bore you all for a whole hour or some change with just stories coming from me. As you can see, we're gonna start this off with audiovisual presentations. Once we go to the bus, we have a television screen on there too as well. But we'll have some more videos to play into it. And then we also have a whole box of books and medias that we'll pass around for you to dive into as well. Now, as we do go around downtown Wilmington, once we get in the bus, we're gonna be writing by images that we wanna give you the story about, why you can see the images.
Welcome to Wilmington, North Carolina, one of the most historically significant African-American cities in the United States. Africans and their descendants have been central to Wilmington's development since its incorporation in 1739. Strategically located where the two branches of the Cape River meet, the colonial settlement quickly became a chief port for the region. Southeastern North Carolina had an abundance of fixed-prime forces, and Wilmington was the leading producer and exporter of naval stores for the English Empire. The coastal region also boosted a small, tightly knit gentry class whose wealth derived from vast rice plantations. The success of the area merchants and planters have arrested heavy on enslaved labor. Brought into the port city by the hundreds, enslaved blacks soon outnumbered whites in the North Carolina. North Carolina's colonial assembly passed legal codes prohibiting enslaved people from reading, writing, testifying in court, congregating in groups, bearing arms, and moving about the countryside. The institution of slavery expanded and changed as time progressed. Before the Civil War, most enslaved individuals were bought and sold at the market house, which stood at the intersection of Front and Market Street. Enslaved individuals had no legal right to control their own labor, but owners frequently permitted them to gather at the market during slack times and hire themselves out. Unskilled slaves might work for the Wilmington docks, unloading cargo for a few months during the winter, but a skilled artisan could be quote-unquote let for as much as a full year. Although enslaved individuals were required to return the proceeds of this labor to their masters, some masters actually granted them a share, and many slaves managed to buy their freedom for themselves and for their family members. As a result, Wilmington became home to a large number of free blacks. Like many cities throughout the antebellum South, Wilmington had no exclusive white or black neighborhoods. Urban slaves generally lived in close proximity to their masters, and sometimes they shared the same building, and sometimes they occupied a specially built quote-unquote quarter nearby. As the city's economy expanded, people of all races, creeds, and cultures came here looking for work. By the 1850s, persons of African descent had secured a particular niche in the building trades, which they occupied for many decades. This happened because of people like James Drummond Sampson, who was the son of a slave owner. His father taught him carpentry, freed him, and then purchased him 10 enslaved individuals and said, "Now do for them as I have done for you." During the Civil War, Wilmington became the chief port of the Confederacy. Protected by Fort Fisher, blockade runners slipped into the Cape Fear River, bringing much-needed supplies supplies, arms, and ammunition. They also supported a level of prosperity that was unusual in wartime. The surrender of Fort Fisher on January 15th of 1865 signaled the end of an era. A few weeks later, Union forces occupied the city. 2 brigades of U.S. colored troops, 3,149 men to be exact, participated in this campaign and suffered heavy casualties. African-American soldiers were later interred in the northwest corner of the Federal Cemetery on Market Street. The Civil War and its aftermath had 2 significant repercussions for the city's residents. It devastated their economy and forever altered relations between the 2 races. But having gained not only their freedom, but the vote and access to education, African-Americans in Reconstruction era Wilmington pursued a wide array of advancements in the political, economic, and social spheres. These advances were linked to the city's renewed prosperity. In the first 2 decades after the Civil War, Wilmington expanded its role as a regional railroad center and began to attract new businesses. Buoyed by their economic success, members of the city's African-American community also acquired a foothold in the city's county and state politics. In 1897, Wilmington had 125 African-American entrepreneurs owning and operating businesses and had become a national symbol of black success. African-Americans who were in the majority owned 10 of the city's 11 dining establishments and 20 of the 22 barbershops. Black people worked for themselves as architects, lawyers, doctors, jewelers, watchmakers, and tailors. Black men occupied 3 of the 10 alderman seats after the Fusionist Party claimed power, and the literacy rate among black males in the city was actually higher than the whites during that time. Because most of the city's freedmen favored the Republican Party, leading Democrats grew alarmed. They, like many other Southerners, perceived the growing political power of African Americans as not only an obstacle to economic development, but a challenge to the traditional way of life. Beginning in the 1890s, white Wilmingtonians, like white Americans elsewhere, took aggressive measures to halt this dual threat. The result was Wilmington and the nation's infamous government overthrow of 1898. On the morning of November 10th, a group of white men mostly armed burned the offices of the Daily Record, a black newspaper across town, because it condemned practices like lynching alleged black rapists and argued that some white women willingly pursued relationships with black men. It was the only daily black newspaper printed in North Carolina at that time. While the white mob were returning to their homes in Brooklyn at the intersection of North 4th and Harley Street, they came upon a group of black men, mostly unarmed, who gathered on the southwest corner to discuss the new and violent turns of events. The whites ordered the blacks to disperse. The blacks refused, and after a heated exchange of words, the first shots of the day were fired. Over the next few hours, Wilmington experienced one of the worst politically and racially motivated episodes in American history. Homes and churches were damaged, businesses were destroyed, and lives were forever altered. When the smoke cleared, 3 white men had been wounded, and a number between 700 to 300 blacks were dead. Most of the city's violence had taken place in Brooklyn, and an unknown number of the neighborhood's black residents sought refuge in nearby swamps and cemeteries. Others hid in their homes, and some fled Wilmington altogether. At City Hall, the armed mob of whites, led by some of Wilmington's most prominent citizens, removed from office the city's duly elected by racial government and what historians consider the only successful coup d'etat in the history of the United States. This monument served as a symbol of Wilmington's commitment to an inclusive society, a tribute to all who over the years have struggled to reverse the tragic consequences of the 1898 racial violence, and a memorial to those African Americans killed in that violence. Before November 10, 1898, Wilmington's African American population was at 60%. After 1898, Wilmington's African American population dropped to 39%, and today it is as low as 18%. This event marked the onset of the Jim Crow era in North Carolina. The 20th century brought many changes to Wilmington. By 1910, blacks had lost their numerical majority and were once again subject to segregation by statutes. Despite a brief reprieve during World War I, Wilmington's economy was declining rapidly.
Feeling like Moses, man, the Lord chose us, now we gotta find our way. Feeling like David, man, I done gave him all, I gotta find my way. You never fit me. That's what you said, that's what he said. Been through the fire, never burned, but instead love you forever, even more to the end. Cause all that I needed, thy hands have provided.
Okay, we're in Wilmington, North Carolina. We came here to take a North Carolina Wilmington Black History tour, which lasts about an hour and a half, but unfortunately we couldn't take any video on the tour, so I'm going back around to some of the spots to take my own footage. And and then I'll explain, hopefully in a voiceover.
In the quiet of the morning, as the sun begins to rise, I can feel your arms around me, and your spirit fill the skies. In every breath of mercy, everyone that I don't deserve.
This is Williston School, which served as a high school for freed slaves and later known as the first accredited high school for black students in North Carolina. In 1968, Dr. Martin Luther King was scheduled to speak here on the day he was assassinated. His schedule changed and he went to Memphis instead. Some notable alumni include tennis champ Althea Gibson, Harlem Globetrotter Meadowlark Lemon, one of the organizers of the Greensboro sit-ins, and Air Force General Joseph McNeil, and the first black chancellor of MIT, Philip Clay. This is St. Luke Church, one of the oldest churches in North Carolina, established in 1865. Located on the corner of 7th and Church Street, this church played a significant role in the civil rights movement by serving as a gathering place for many community meetings. St. Luke was also located next to the only black-owned newspaper at that time, founded by Alex Manley, who in 1898 published an editorial condemning the accusations of black men raping white women. This enraged a group of armed white supremacists who marched to the Daily Record, set it on fire, and triggered a violent uprising that led to an overthrow of the local government and killing an unknown number of black residents. This empty parking lot marks the area where the Daily Record once stood. This was the site for Gregory Normal Institute, a segregated high school for black students that operated from 1869 to 1921. It was the first school in Wilmington to enroll black students following the Civil War. This home on 6th Street was said to be featured in the Green Book known as the Payne's Hotel. It hosted well-known guests including musicians Duke Ellington and Louis Armstrong. Today, it operates as an apartment building. St. Stephen AME Church, located on Red Cross Street, was established for a black congregation that separated from the Front Street Methodist Church after it refused to allow a black chaplain to deliver sermons there. Shaw's Mortuary, established in 1895 by John H. Shaw and later ran by his sons, is considered one of the oldest black businesses in the area. This is the Bellamy Mansion, once home to a wealthy physician and merchant Dr. John Bellamy and his family. The 10,000 square foot mansion was built in 1859 by skilled enslaved workers as well as free black artisans. One of the carpenters of the mansion was Henry Taylor, who is credited for the construction of many buildings in Wilmington. He is also the father to Robert Taylor, who attended the Gregory Normal Institute and later became the first black graduate of MIT, and later went on to work for Booker T. Washington as architect at Tuskegee Institute. A well-known descendant of Taylor is Valerie Jarrett, former political advisor to Barack Obama. Another artisan who contributed to the mansion was master plasterer William Gould, who was owned by a peanut planter. Despite the laws, Gould learned to read and write and is believed to have carved his initials into his plasterwork. In 1862, Gould escaped slavery via the Cape Fear River. Days later, he and 7 others were picked up by the USS Cambridge as contraband and enlisted in the U.S. Navy. Gould kept a journal of his experiences, which was later edited for publication by his great-grandson and Stanford University law professor. This is Orange Street, a historic street taken in 1862 by 22 enslaved individuals seeking freedom. They traveled down to the riverfront to the Cape Fear River. Among them was William Gould. Today, this path is recognized as a part of the Underground Railroad network. 1898 Memorial Park, located on 3rd Street, was dedicated in 2008 to commemorate the government overthrow that took place on November 10, 1898, that killed an unknown number of black residents. The monument consists of an arc of 6 tall bronze paddles that represent water, a vital element in the spiritual beliefs of many African cultures. Water was seen as a passageway between this life and the next. In other cultures, water also symbolizes purification, rebirth, forgiveness, cleansing, and wholeness. I really enjoyed exploring the rich black history of Wilmington. I highly recommend starting with the bus tour. I'll share a link in the description box for anyone who's interested. Afterward, we had lunch by the riverfront at the Marina Grill. After lunch, we had to make a quick stop to Wrightsville Beach to take in the beautiful ocean views before heading home.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I could stare at you for 100 years and I never blink an eye. You were beautiful, just like a flower. I could walk with you for 1,000,000 miles and my feet would not get tired. Where you go, I'll go, winter or summer. I don't care the seasons change, 'cause darling, I'll stay right here with you. Every night and every day, 'cause darling, there's nothing in this world I'd rather do. Never been this close to heaven, never felt something just like this ecstasy. Never been this close to heaven. I don't know if this is real or fantasy, or somewhere in between, or somewhere in between. Oh yeah. You could fall asleep for 100 hours and I wouldn't miss a thing. I would keep you safe while you were dreaming. You could scream and shout, cry 1,000 tears, and I wouldn't let fear win. What you feel, I feel. Together we're healing.
it has inspired me to explore more of my own family history on a deeper level, which is something that becomes more and more challenging as time goes on.
There's nothing in this world I'd rather do. Never been this close to heaven. Never felt something just like this ecstasy. Never been this close to heaven. I don't know if this is real or fantasy.
I hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.
Somewhere in between.